Meet incredible women transforming challenges into success and redefining empowerment.
Who are rewriting the rules, shattering expectations, and refusing to fade into the background. Empowered women say no to being defined by their challenges in a world that tries to silence and sideline them. She Roars Boldly celebrates the remarkable journeys of women who have transformed their struggles into stepping stones to success. So grab your coffee or tea, settle in, and get ready to be inspired and fired up. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Debra, and this is She Roars Boldly podcast. And I know you had to put up with me the last 2 weeks, but she will be talking to you for next week. So thank you for your patience with me. Well, we have Elizabeth here, and she has a dynamite story that I know everybody out there is going to resound to and love. Take it away, Elizabeth. Tell them a little about yourself and how you got to the point you're at.
Gee whiz, that's a heck of an opportunity, Dr. Moran. Thank you so much. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and that's part of the reason I talk funny, but I really talk funny because I grew up in Western North Carolina, way out in the country. I'm a person, shall we say, of Appalachian origin. And what that means is that I grew up on land that was been in my family for 5 generations when I lived there. And that's a lot of people never have had that experience. It's really wonderful and it's really awful because you're always stuck at least thigh deep energetically where you grew up. Came to Nashville in 79. Y'all hang on to this. This is a juicy part. I was a shoe repairer. I put rattlesnake toes on Alabama's boots. I put the red tab back on Dolly Parton's red boots because my shop, we were taught to put the needle in the hole, the needle came, the thread went in. We didn't get to make new holes. We had to use the same holes that were there when we started the job. And there was a really powerful leadership lesson in that because all too often when you take your shoes to a shoe shop to get them resoled or to get something sewn up, the cobbler just uses whatever stitch setting they've got per inch and it can punch new holes in the leather you're trying to fix, which weakens it. And so if you think about that in terms of leadership, a lot of what we're challenging ourselves to do as we're developing our own inner and outer leadership skills is we're looking at how do we find the holes that the thread came out of to put the thread back where it came and make it new and different at the same time. And that's important because if we do the same thing we've always done, that is to put the thread back in the hole it came out of, we're supposed to get what we've always gotten. But sometimes when you put the thread back where it came, you end up with something gorgeous and brand new that's going to last a whole lot longer. Out of that experience, I obviously learned a whole lot. And then I went to work for the human services folks at adoption, foster home, special recruitment, because it was all I thought I could do. There you go. There's that meow instead of the roar. And was written up for being overproductive after 14 months. How do you get overproductive working for what we used to call the welfare department? You make your friends look bad. You make your colleagues look bad because you can do more work than they can, even with twice the caseload. And that set me out on the road on which I'm meeting you all. That set me out on the road of figuring out who am I? What unique offerings do I bring? What is unique about me that fits in the workplace? And how can I, as my family had done in a very different way, roar loudly? I mean, what do you do when your mother builds the entire water system in the rural community? Your grandfather built the fire department. Your great-grandfather built the school you went to. I mean, we're talking about seriously embedded in social life.
No pressure at all.
No pressure. No, none whatsoever, except a vice on your neck every time you turn around. And that was the beginning of figuring out. Mama used to say, I never found the box to get into. And that sounds like a cliche, and it is. But it means, how do I do things differently in a way that preserves enough order and sanity that I'm relatable? The work I do in what's called trauma-informed thinking is an outgrowth of all of that, because we can't do the same thing we've always done when it comes to helping people whose lives have been overwhelming. Mine sure was. And we can't do the same thing and get the same out and get something different. You can't use a medical model that says germ-based theory of disease or mental illness or mental disorder or just medicate people and expect to show up somewhere different on your own map. And so I said at that point, Deborah, about looking at what makes me different and how can I capitalize on it.
Well, that's not a question many people ask themselves.
Well,
I like that question though. I really do.
thank you.
How can I stand out?
How can I stand out without alienating everybody else or without making myself unacceptable? No, not even unacceptable, so that the world can still tolerate me. And that's, for me, that was an interesting question. A lot of people may not face a question that big, that large about it, but I came equipped with an awful lot of gifts, and figuring out how to make those gifts work and usable at the same time that I am acceptable in the culture I'm in is really important. You know, you're not an island. You can't do this alone. You've got to have relationships. We're wired for relationships. And if I don't have the best model for developing and sustaining healthy relationships, not because my family was a bad family, they just didn't, there were some skills they were missing, just like I was. They passed them on, I missed them. And I thought, gee, I wonder what would happen if I developed these skills. And so along with some very good therapy along the way now and then, for me, it was always a spot check or let's work on this issue, get it done, get it gone. I began to really focus on how is what I don't know as important as what I do know. And that came out of the education field. That's Bloom's taxonomy and Maslow's hierarchy, where you're talking about being unconsciously incompetent. I didn't know how stupid I was to being consciously incompetent. I know how stupid I am in some areas to being consciously competent. Let me just keep practicing and practicing and practicing it until it becomes muscle memory, kind of like athletes do.
Right.
And unconsciously competent. There's a danger in that one, though. You know what it is?
What?
Well, if you're unconsciously competent, you may not realize that other people don't know the same things that you know.
Oh, well, I got to think on that.
Yeah.
That's deep. Very deep.
Well, let me give you an example. I'm so wrapped up in all this work I do in being trauma responsive and creating wellness and looking at emotional intelligence, because really the skills of for emotional intelligence and for mastering overwhelming experiences are just almost the same. I'm so wrapped up in the model, which I call trauma responsive emotional intelligence. I forget it doesn't mean a thing to most people. They have no idea what I'm talking about when I talk about trauma responsive emotional intelligence. And so, you know, how to rebrand that so that people can get it, that we're really going from quiet cracking, which is the title of my new book that'll be out in 2 months, to living life and loving life. I mean, loving life, you know, I'm still looking for that end of it. Is it loving life? Well, that's kind of vapid and vague. Is it powerful, transformational? Everybody says that. What is it? What's the to state of the from state? And the to state is where I know that I'm consciously incompetent. And the from state is where I'll still be consciously incompetent about some things. So when we know nothing or are an expert, we're in a vulnerable position either way.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah. You kind of want to be balanced. Yeah.
And balance and not knowing is really important, because if I'm consciously incompetent, if I know that there are things I don't know, for me, it's a lot easier for me to jack up my curiosity. And that's where I have the most fun. Can I grow a 30-pound cantaloupe? Yes, I can. I did last year. Can I put my tomatoes in 3 weeks early because I'm traveling and still get a good crop? I'm a gardener.
There it is. Came back. Yeah, it's very insightful that you look at yourself that way. I think a lot of people feel that, but they don't have a word for it.
Yeah.
And you put a word on it. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. We don't know what we don't know, and when we do know what we don't know, we probably are going to go further. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I began to wildly roar and loudly about 1990. That's 30 plus years of roaring loudly and wildly. Sometimes like a feral animal, but most of the time doing pretty good.
We all have our days.
Decades, honey, decades, not just days, decades.
Decades, yeah. We all go but we're not talking about those.
No, we're not. We're going to leave those alone.
But everybody has them. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
Particularly when you get to our ages. Yeah, you look back and whoa.
And I realized this early this morning when I was on a walk with a colleague of mine. I've known this woman for 40 years. That's over half my life. 40 years I've known her. Stunning, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I often wonder if we knew back then what we knew now, but then I think we still wouldn't know.
There'd be
You can
something
say
else.
that, but
Here's the posture that's been the most helpful to me in terms of looking at past and future. As far as I've come, and y'all, I have come a far piece from being a shoemaker, occasionally homeless. One of the things that I never learned was how to read numbers. They always danced and jumped and jumbled, and I never could figure that out until I was close to retirement age. I mean, like years close to Social Security retirement age. I'll just leave that out there. And it implies I'm beyond that. Yeah, I am. And so I never could figure out a lot of the things that other people seem to be able to figure out about finances and money and stuff because I couldn't read any of it. I could recognize patterns, but I couldn't read the numbers. And when you think about the impact of that on your ability to save for the future, oh, and if you think you're not going to live that long, because I knew I wasn't going to live to be 18, let alone 21, let alone 30, or pick a number after that. I just didn't think I was going to live that long. That, by the way, for those of you who think, well, I didn't think I would either. It's not uncommon among people who've had overwhelming experiences in childhood. Our sense of foreshortened or future is really foreshortened. We just don't think we're going to make it that long. And so when we end up here, all of a sudden it's like, well, I got no savings, but I got very few friends. What am I going to do now? And so figuring out when you finally realize, oh yeah, I did live this long, and now apparently I'm going to live at least a little bit longer. What do I do now? You decide, as far as I've come, if I've got that far to go again, now that I can actually read numbers and make sense out of financial statements and stuff, maybe I ought to take this as an opportunity to try to do it again and see what I can do differently. Why would I not try again and do something different at this age?
I can't think of a reason.
Yeah. And so for me, leadership, and especially when I'm thinking about the conference coming up in June with Twanda Young, Dare to Lead Differently. To me, I think the biggest change that I've made that speaks to the difference I bring to the party is, as far as I've come, I will always have that far to go again. It doesn't mean that I'm in failure or in success. It means that every moment is success, and every next moment can be as well, even if it appears to be a failure to somebody. The things that I don't get right are just as important as the things I do get right. It's not a competition. This is not a swimming pool where when you get to the other end and you hit the wall, you won. This is about long distance, open water swimming, maybe, where your ability to adjust to the tides and the currents and the conditions keeps you always in the middle, in the absolute present moment of your swim.
Yeah, I really feel too, because I changed trajectory again, a few years ago, but it's like, I think it keeps us active, young, and motivated.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong for people that don't want to do that. It's a personal choice, but if you're feeling stuck, I think you're right on, try something new,
Well, yeah,
put yourself out there. What's going to happen? It doesn't work.
Right. So you don't want to bet the farm probably, but you want to at least put enough of yourself in it that you can give it a shot. I think the biggest challenge I see in leadership, especially among, I remember it for myself in the hold your breath 60s and early 70s, and I hear it among young people I know now, is, what's the future going to be like? Who knows? We didn't have a clue during the Cold War if we were going to be bombed off the face of the earth or not. We didn't have a clue if we were going to make it through the energy crises that we made it through. We don't have a clue what's coming. We see tremendous changes in our geography, in the earth, in the climate, in politics, in the style of governments people are willing to accept. But we don't have a clue about what the future is going to bring. And Hannah Arendt, who was a German political philosopher who's Jewish, who wrote a lot about Hitler and the banality of evil and just was a remarkable writer, hard to read, you have to unpack it. But the one thing she said that has always stuck with me is we never know what the end result of our beginning actions will be. And so when I think about what am I doing with the next 3-4 years of my life? What is it? When I'm there looking back here, what do I want to see? What would I like to see different? Well, I'd like to see a lot more people engaged with our model. I'd like to see my having found a name for the work that I'm doing that is engaging and inviting for people at all different levels across different fields so that we can begin to move away from what are the things that we missed learning because we were busy trying to survive, to what have we learned as we are now surviving that helps us survive even more strongly and thrive and enjoy life and be able to have more freedom and more capacity for the things that bring us joy. The people I know that are the most miserable, you know them too. They retired and they quit. And they didn't live long after that. And whether you're going to retire at 40, 50, 60, 70, or 80, it doesn't make any difference. What you do next is the most important task you'll face. And that is also true for us as entrepreneurs, regardless of how many years we've been on this earth, is what am I going to do next? What do I do next? What's working? What needs to be improved? And so getting out of the box and being willing to look at different disciplines has made it a whole lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. And like you point out, the world is, I just speech on this at Flux in Philippines about how we're in flux right now. The world's crazy, it's unstable, and that's scary. But we got two choices then, don't we? We can
At
either
least,
hide in our house and worry, or we can just continue to live.
well, I think there's a third choice. And I think it
Yeah,
probably wraps into the second one. We can hide in our house, put our heads in the sand, and leave our you know what's up in the air like ostriches, which is the comfortable, easy thing to do. We can act like this is all fine, this is all normal, this is the way the world should go. We can go back and look in history and see when has this pattern cycled before and what has come out of it.
right.
We can say, I ain't putting up with this a day longer, but you know what? I need to be conservative enough not to put myself in too much trouble. And we can write letters, we can make phone calls, we can show up at marches if we choose to, or we can go radical. And I don't advise going radical because the consequences, unless you're willing to fully accept them, are usually as radical as the actions were. And I have to tell you, it's awfully hard from us from when you're incarcerated to do the good work that you're here to do.
Yeah,
So I err on the side of caution, but I think that do nothing is really not an option. Do nothing says you can do anything you want to me, and I'll be okay with it. And whether that's in our personal lives or our
right.
professional lives or our political or our faith lives, whichever life you want to look at, it usually subjects us to being stomped on, being a victim, and ending up being injured rather than made whole. And that's really where we don't want to go. We need less injury and more making whole, more learning the skills, more learning
Right.
different words for different emotions so that we have a broader range of emotional capacity, learning how to turn them up and down, learning how to suspend our judgment. I was out walking this morning. I'm coming back home, driving along. Oh, this guy nearly hits me. And I think I said things that would make Jesus want to drink straight gin out of a cat dish, girl. Let me tell you. And I laughed at myself. I thought, oh, there you go again. That means that you thought that this driver woke up at 7 o'clock this morning and thought, ooh, 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 ooh. At 9:22 Central, Elizabeth Power in her gray Subaru is going to be exiting off of Interstate 440 on the Nolensville Road, and I'm going to run her off the road. Are you serious? That guy, he could have had a yellow jacket in his breeches. He could have
Yeah,
just got bad news. He could have sneezed. He could have found out his mama just died. There's all kinds of things that don't have anything to do with me. It's very, very unlikely
right.
that he decided that I was going to be. Well, if he does things like that, and he doesn't wake up in the morning and deciding to do things like that, do I wake up in the morning deciding to be that mean? I don't. Do you? If you and I don't, why do we think everybody else does? And so just that one question has helped me learn to suspend my judgment and how personally I take things.
Wow. I think we all have a little of that judgment in us, and we do have to check that. You're right.
Yeah.
Because often we're way off.
And it's usually because we're scared
Yeah.
of something.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
If you were sitting on the couch with your 20-year-old self, what would you tell her?
Oh dear God.
I just love that question. It's a
First of
hard
all,
one.
I have to see if I can remember where I was then. Let's see.
I mean, they always say hindsight's better than foresight. So,
No, wait, no, first of all, it's the length of time between 73 and here.
yeah.
And it's, what was I doing back then? Oh, dear God in heaven, what was I doing? Oh, well, I would have told her, see, this brings up another curious thing. I had decided at that point in time that religious life in the Episcopal Church, that being an Episcopal religious, was really what I wanted to do. And there were a lot of good reasons for that. One is, I think that living in community is so critical for so many of us. We're not meant to live alone. That's a very
Right.
Western, United States kind of thought process that says we all need our own separate houses. We need our own separate this. We need our own separate that. When in fact, we really need community, because community is where we learn how to live with each other. It's where we learn how to tolerate other people's differences.
Right.
The idea of a Godward focused life is valuable to me. By the way, not in a very traditional sense, but in a very large. The Episcopal Church is very broad and inclusive in many, many ways, and I liked that. I liked that we could talk about Buddhism as well as Christianity, and it's very, very freeing. But the rhythm and the structure changed my life in a very positive way. I would have said to my 20-year-old self, as I was sitting there, it's like, oh man, this is such a right time. It would have been right after Easter. I would have been sitting with myself there, saying to me, you know, you love this life, and this life is a good structured fit for you, and it makes a big difference. There's going to come a time when you're going to question whether or not living inside convent walls with limited contact outside, or living outside and bringing what you've learned inside to the outside. You're going to think about which one of these is more your calling. And if you're called to serve many rather than few, although the life of prayer, I think, does serve many, you'll want to think carefully about how can you take this experience there with you. And I would have said to myself, by the way, cleaning out the koi pond and killing all the koi, someday that's going to make a great story for you.
Yeah. Of course, I always wonder when we listen to ourselves, but that's a whole nother subject.
Probably not. Probably not.
Probably not. 20-year-olds don't always, but some do.
I didn't know Jack or Jill or anybody else running up the hill.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to have a generation that's coming up that's really looking for answers.
We do.
Probably more than our generation did. They're really looking for how to go forward.
Yeah, but
and
you know what?
very
They
focused on
condemn us.
themselves and what they feel, where they're going, and they don't want to make the mistakes they've seen a lot of us make.
Well,
And
yeah, they don't. I don't blame them. I didn't want to make the mistakes my mother made. I was raised by a single parent after I was 3 because of my dad's death. I didn't want to make those same mistakes. But here's the challenge. If people who are much younger than I am don't want to make the same mistakes I make,
right.
instead of saying, oh, okay, boomer, oh, boomer, like it's, the same time they say, Karen, they need to quit condemning and judging everything that we did, or that, I'm going to make it personal, that I did. And we need to have some conversations about what they want and how did it work for me. And, if it might not work for them, what might work. But there needs to be a whole lot more conversation and respect between the generations. Us for people who are younger, and younger people for us who are older. I'm not talking about you need to worship me because I'm a boomer. No, I'm not saying that at all. Yeah, we screwed some things up. And our parents screwed some things up for our generation, and they will screw things up for their children if they have children. The thing is that it is the nature of history that errors are made in each generation, and the next generation wants to do something different. The challenge is, does it draw from any of the wisdom of the previous generations, or does it say, cool on all y'all, we're going to do it our way no matter what? I promise you that recklessness will bring the same challenge, not the recklessness we see in some places. For example, did you know that in Tibet, the political parties, the young people there are rocking it when it comes to alternate economy and different ways of thinking and preserving things and doing ecologically and environmentally sound
Oh,
things.
definitely ecological. Yeah, they're big on it.
The Tibetan kids are rocking it, but other cultures and countries, maybe not so much, but they don't want to work. Well, okay, I think work is coming to an end as we understand it. I think the economy as we understand it is coming to an end. I think capitalism is probably going to be off the shelf in a number of years. What's going to replace it? If we still have a place where I buy something, I want to acquire something, I have to give you something for it. If it's bartering, well, we can tax bartering all over the place. We just get the value of the goods we barter. What's it going to be? How's it going to work? And I have trouble running into those conversations. You know what I'm saying? I just don't.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of things that I thought about that helped me get where I am. I think growing up with a physical disability that's invisible helped a lot. Most of my joints dislocate, and that means that I can sneeze and throw body parts around the room. But I always had to, and still have to, think deliberately about how I move and what I do to reduce that risk.
Yeah.
I think being neurodivergent raised me up differently. The development that because of some of the early health problems and other things in my life, I developed a robust case of post-traumatic stress disorder. It's no longer disorderly, and I no longer have much of it. But those were natural consequences to the things that I experienced, not the result of a bad brain.
Right. What was the biggest internal barrier you had to overcome?
Sorry?
The biggest internal barrier you have to overcome.
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah, I know. I have hard questions. I push out.
The lies that I came to believe and that I told myself to keep myself facing lower risks and less exposure. The things absolutely weren't true. And the reason I chose to believe them is that they helped me be able to be in this world and to be more tolerated by other people, and to be able to find my way more easily.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have those internal barriers we gotta get past.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have them every, few years.
Well,
Exactly.
I think we replace them. I think once we surface one and eliminate that, unless we've done an equal amount or an equally, or maybe an amount of attention that is effective on learning to cherish ourselves, learning how to build bridges instead of barriers internally. If we haven't learned, and I use the word learn a lot, it is an education, is a learning thing. If we haven't learned how to build bridges, all we have is barriers. And
Right.
I think when I think about myself, those things that I had learned to believe that they really were just plain old lies. They weren't malintended lies, but they were still lies. I did a lot of work on not believing them, but I didn't do nearly as much on what I believed instead, and that's what I'm doing now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, believe it or not, we're getting down to the end. Can you believe it?
Wow.
It goes really fast. It really
It
does.
does.
So why don't you take some time here and tell them about what you do and
Thanks.
how you can help them.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored that you'd asked that. A lot of what we do is learning, and you can tell it probably by my vocabulary. As I looked around and tried to figure out how did I move from being homeless, helpless, hopeless to being successful, acceptable, and enjoying my life so very much more and so much less afraid. How did I get my roar? How did I develop my roar and get my roar back? The first thing was by listening to what other people said. Other people said I was smart. I didn't think I was smart. Other people said I was attractive. I didn't think I was attractive. So a lot of these core beliefs that we develop come out, they have meaning, they come out of some sensible place in our lives. Most of the times, they're things that we develop in response to things that overwhelm us to the point that we think we might die or lose our mind or be badly injured, things that our brain processes as trauma. I help people take a look at different areas of knowledge and skill that we probably miss when we're so overwhelmed that we think we might die or lose our mind or be badly injured. Because when you look at it from point of view of the person at the age they were at, what they had developmentally, well, they couldn't develop. They were too busy trying to survive. And so we help people learn and fill in those gaps like elastic emotions or really looking at what our strengths are and using outside tools to validate those strengths and then learning how to bring those into our lives on a daily basis. Looking at interconnections. How do we identify and use the interconnections that we have to help soothe ourselves and keep ourselves calm so that we can look at something differently? So we do a lot of work helping people develop what we call, it's a phrase nobody understands, I've got to change it, trauma responsive emotional intelligence, the result of which is you live life a whole lot more fully and you roar a whole lot louder. Along with that, we help people learn about resilience and we coach people both in trauma responsive emotional intelligence and in resilience so that they can jack up the things that can help them have more liberty in their lives so that they can roar boldly with less anxiety. We help people think about how they cope with change. So it's really on-site learning and micro lessons that are available 24/7 that are, people say, fun actually, or at least neutral. We don't do horror stories. We do coaching online. I do on-site training and I do a lot of conferences and speaking and a lot of writing. And they can come to our website at the-tia.org, the-tia.org to see what we offer. And they can also just reach out to me at epower@elizabethpower.com and let me know what you're interested in. Let's see if we can help you get where you want to go. Let's see if we can get that word go from
Yeah.
to wow.
I love it. Hey, I don't even have to ask you what she wears bowling means to you.
It means
You're already roaring.
I'll tell you, listen, she roars bowling means to me that instead of playing small and being addicted to playing small and being invisible, it means learning the things that you need to know to give you the room and the authority and the power to roar boldly and survive it. Because most of us think we'll die if we roar. We won't die. People will look at you funny, but they're gonna look at you funny anyhow, just enjoy it.
Yeah, we got to stop worrying. We really do. We got to be who we are, our authentic selves, and roar. I totally agree. I want to thank you for showing up. And are you going to be in person at Dare to Lead Different?
Yes, I will be at Dare to Lead
Good.
Different.
So we'll get to meet each other personally. Speaking there,
and I encourage anybody who's out there, you ought to come to Dare to Lead Differently because we're going to have a lot of fun, either virtually or certainly in person. Y'all ought to show up because the two of us are going to be there, Dr. Morak and I. And
we might rock. Yeah, and we have the general, so
it'll be a lot of fun.
But she doesn't let me call her.
The general said, "Let's call her the general." What did she ask you to call her, Tia?
Well, she wants to be called by her name, but sometimes we all call her the general. But
well,
if you're listening,
it's hard not to, and she carries that level of authority just in her presence. But I understand.
She's amazing.
I don't want to be the cobbler. I want to be Elizabeth. So there.
Yeah, I'll put some information out about that conference too in the notes. And if anybody's interested, they are having a virtual one too. So I'll get that information and I'll make sure you guys have it so you can see the virtual or just show up and see us in person. That would be a lot of fun. Yes. Well, again,
thank you so much for having me on today. I always enjoy meeting new people and talking about interesting things. And each time I come away with new information about me as well. So thank you for the enlightenment.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And again, I know I said in the last one, but everyone, thank you for what happened across the world with this podcast. I don't know if you heard that yet, but
no, what happened?
We got 602 downloads in 2 weeks, so we're over 1.2K Okay. And
Wow.
we're in 53 countries now.
Wow. Wow.
And I get chills still. Keep it up, keep sharing it, keep doing whatever you're doing. I'm just humbled with things. To be able to get this across the world is very, very exciting. I
Thank
kind
you
of
for
woke up a
roaring
couple days
boldly.
ago and went, what?
Thank you for being willing to roar boldly.
Yeah, it's great because now we're talking, not just have a lot of guests from all over the world, but we're talking to all over the world.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this is what, if we can do that, particularly as women, think that the changes that we can come together and make.
Yes.
This is
And
a
I
powerful thing.
love helping women. I love coaching women to become more of who they are and to
Right,
become less of who the world has told them they must be. Mm.
right. And you will send me all your links so I can
I
share it
will.
with everybody.
I will. I
So
will indeed.
yeah, you know I do that. So click on them. All right. This is Dr. Deborah. This is She Roars Boldly. Keep the roar going.